Welcome, everybody, to the High Return Real Estate Show. I have my amazing business partner with me, Mr. Jack Gibson.
Hey, Shucky, what's happening, bud?
I am doing very well, and we're excited because the gentleman that's coming on today, I wouldn't exactly call him a competitor, but he is definitely in the same space as us. So if you want to have people talking shop about Turnkey and really understand the inner workings of what happens behind the scenes, this is going to be a fantastic episode. So stay tuned.
Welcome to the High Return Real Estate Show, the podcast for heavy hitters. Two men, one mission. It's time to build your empire.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Shecky with the High Return Real Estate Show, and I am so excited to be introducing a man who has been in the turnkey space for a very, very long time. He and I had a chance meeting actually at a conference about a year and a half ago in San Diego, and it was just a pleasure to meet him. And I want to introduce to you Mr. Marco Santarelli. Hello, Marco.
Jack, Jeff, hey, great to be here, guys. I'm excited.
Yeah, excited to have you. I kind of gave you this introduction without saying much about you. And if you wouldn't mind, just tell the audience a little bit about you. I mean, you've been in the space for a long time. So tell us how you got involved in real estate, how you got involved in turnkey, and how you kind of ended up in the position that you're in now.
Yeah, well, the answer to that question, unfortunately, is very long. So I'll give you the abbreviated Cliff Notes version. The reality is if you go back to the early days, I just knew from a very young age that I wanted to be wealthy. And I actually made it my life's mission to figure out everything I could about money and wealth. And in my early teens, I was that nerdy guy that ordered the Tony Robbins personal power program on audio cassette. And I still have it to this day with the paper journal. It's in a little plastic or a cardboard box. But I was always studying business and real estate and personal development. That was just me. But I never really figured out how to create that. But over the years, I created small businesses and I dabbled in this and I dabbled in that. But at 18, I bought my first rental property. It was a townhome unit. I bought it for what I thought was a good price. I fixed it up. I leased it out. I managed it myself. I held it for a number of years. And then after that, I bought a condo. And, the saying is the writing was on the wall. Well, the writing was on the wall at that point in time. I just kind of figured out that, I'm an entrepreneur and I love real estate. I never married those two things together though, until 2003, 2004. And that was really a turning point in my life because in 2003, I'd come out of an unfortunate dot-com crash. We had 105 employees, raised $9.5 million in venture capital funding, and we had created this business, which was essentially the Amazon.com of the day for the country club industry. And things were going well until the NASDAQ crashed in March of, I think, 2000. And at that point, our VC funding dried up. We had to scale the business back. We had $100,000 a month in a burn rate. So we had to start laying everybody off. And ultimately, I was the third last person to leave. And it was just an unfortunate, sad day right from the day that stock market crashed, because your dream of becoming a dot-com millionaire, that overnight millionaire, just disappeared. So I had time to reflect and think back and try to figure out what is it I really, really love. And I loved real estate, and I loved wealth creation. I loved helping other people. So I got an email one afternoon from Robert Allen, who's one of the godfathers of Nothing Down Real Estate. He was putting on a free 3-day event here in Orange County, California. I had time on my hands, so I went. It was the most amazing 3-day event. It was just action-packed. It was full of content and information. But it was one of those events where, it's free on the front end, but, they're obviously selling something on the back end, right? So everybody's running to the back of the room, credit cards in hand, spending $15,000, $25,000, and $35,000 on these boot camps. Well, like I said, I had time on my hand and had the willingness to learn, and I had this dream still within me. So I signed up and I started going to these boot camps all around the country. But the beautiful thing about that is two major things happened. The first thing is it kicked me in the butt to get back into real estate investing. And so within 9 months, I had created the systems that allowed me to invest, basically find and purchase 84 rental units from Florida all the way up to Michigan, all from my home in Orange County, California, 2,000 miles away. Tied to that, I had investors coming to me saying, hey, Marco, can you give me a hand? Can you help me invest in real estate? And that's where the launch of my current business today, Narada Real Estate Investments, came to be, is because the light bulb moment, went off and investors were wanting the help. They needed the help. And so those two major things happened in that year. And today, when you marry all that stuff together, it really just gives, it really created the mission that I have today for me and my business. And that's really to help 1 million people create wealth and passive income and put them on the path to financial freedom with real estate. That's our overall mission.
Fantastic. I love it. So what does Narada stand for?
That's an interesting question. I get asked that question from time to time, and it's kind of a funny story to it. I don't know what it means, and you can pronounce it however you want. Narada. The truth is that long ago, my best friend and I had a small publication business. We were probably in our early 20s, and we came across a company in Canada called Narada Corp. And I asked them the exact same question: what does Narada mean? And they told me the most interesting story. They said, well, we needed a name for our company. We didn't know what to call it. And so what we did is we came up with a list of 100 names. They literally had a piece of paper with 100 names on it. And they submitted that list to a analysis service. I don't know what to call it, but they did a psychological review and a psychological analysis on those 100 names that they had on the list. And Narada came out at the top of that list as being the most psychologically impactful name of the names that they came up with. And I thought that was really cool. So I filed that in the back of my head. And in 2003, as I just told you the story before, when I needed a name for the business, everything I wanted was taken. There was no URL or domain name on GoDaddy that was available or that I liked. And so I thought, well, I need a brandable name and I need something that's unique. So why not take Narada and put real estate investments after it? And that's how the name came to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way as any, all right?
Well, it worked.
Yeah, I like it. So a lot has changed since 2003, obviously. I mean, we operate, and I'm sure you do too, a very technology-driven company. And in fact, I had alluded before we pushed the record button to some of the changes that we were making in our company. And much of that really is driven by understanding that it's really technology that drives business forward. At least I believe that. And I feel like that businesses that don't embrace that are really in big trouble. So using that kind of as the platform for the question, a lot's changed since 2003. And I want to hear from your standpoint, how have things changed? I know it's not just technology, but markets are cyclical and things have changed. How are things different for you now? I mean, we're recording this in, middle to late of 2019. That's 2003 is, like 40 light years ago in terms of technology.
Well, if I understand the question correctly, I mean, technology is constantly evolving and accelerating. So back in 2003, 2004, at least when I got started in this space, and there were very few people in this space back then, it was very localized. There really wasn't a true nationwide provider of turnkey rental properties. Back then, social media, I don't even know if it existed, but it was certainly in its infancy. Probably Facebook was around. Man, it's hard to remember. That was 15 and a half years ago.
That's when we were friends on MySpace.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or Friendster or whatever the heck that was back then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the days of MySpace. Yeah, I mean, back then it was a lot of hustle. The technology has not only helped, but accelerated your ability to reach a target market. Now with Facebook and Google and Instagram, and your ability to target specifically defined audiences through, paid advertising is absolutely the rifle approach as opposed to a shotgun approach or just, a blind approach throwing darts in the dark. So you can target your audience very effectively. Social media has made it very easy to communicate your content and your message and your mission, your philosophy, and really your life to everybody all the time. And I'm not the best at it. I'm not like Grant Cardone or, these other guys that are in your face 24 hours a day, every single day. They certainly do well and they attract certain people, but they also repel others. I have this conversation with people all the time. What do you think of so-and-so, or what do you think of so-and-so? And when I ask the question, hey, what do you think of Grant Cardone? Some people love the guy. Some people, really can't stand listening to him. And maybe it's just a personal thing. but the technology has made it very easy to reach a wide audience. And you're either going to create a tribe of people that'll follow you, and you'll also, repel people that really don't buy into your overall message. The technology internally, though, hasn't really changed all that much. I started off with, spreadsheets, and then that migrated into other types of tools. There's always been some sort of way to manage your contacts. We use a good CRM system today, a customer relationship management system. But email's always been around, whether you're using MailChimp or anything else. Those tools exist in order to communicate with your audience. Email is really just kind of that perennial communication tool that everybody uses, but now more and more people are starting to use Messenger and other types of instant communication mediums. Again, I'm not big on that. Maybe I just don't really get it. I understand it, but I just don't see it as a marketing tool. I don't know what you guys use, but really for us, email's the key thing. Our website is a key tool, and organic traffic is a key tool. We don't do a lot of paid advertising. We dabble in it from time to time, but I don't know what works for you guys, but I'd be curious to know that. But that's what I've been doing, mostly organic.
Very similar.
Yeah, I would say almost identical. I mean, we don't. We do very, very little paid advertising. Obviously, we do some stuff on referral, but we do a lot of natural organic search, and we sell lots of properties through emails and with a strong presence on our website.
Well, here's the big thing, like in social media world, you don't have a whole lot of control. I mean, as a lot of people found out when they build up huge fan odd pages on their number of likes on their Facebook pages, and then they decide to change the algorithm, and now you are reaching your audience, and now you're reaching less than 1% of them. And you spent all this time and money and energy to build this audience, right? Well, with email, when you build an email list, you'll always have control over that list no matter what. And like, I'm thinking about back to myself, I have the same email address for the last 25 years. Like, I've never changed it. So once I'm on a list, unless I opt out, they're going to be able to reach me. So, I think, I don't know if your perspective is the same on that, Marco, when you mentioned that you guys use a lot of email. I know we're kind of diving into a marketing tactic, which, although a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs and business owners, so this is probably good stuff for them to hear as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. When you capture their email address, you essentially own that person until they unsubscribe. And that's the problem with Amazon, with Google, with Facebook, with everything else, is if they control the person on their platform and you don't have their contact information, the moment they make a change, they essentially are cutting you off and you have no control and no recourse. So you need to own something that allows you to communicate with them directly, and that's usually their email address. But open rates and click-through rates have been dropping year after year after year when it comes to email, so it's not as effective as it used to be. Like 15 years ago, you can send an email out and you'd have, the majority of those people open and read that email. Not necessarily everybody would click through, but you'd have a lot of attention. But today that's dropped off to like 20-30% range. And so this is why there's been a movement towards collecting people's cell phone numbers, because it's instant messaging. You can text someone, and the open rate, which is essentially the person noticing it and reading it, is in the 80 to 90% range. It's huge. Right. You reach virtually everybody all the time. Now it is a little more intrusive, and it is a little more sensitive because you don't want to pee people off. But that's where a lot of marketers are going, is they're going towards the capture of people's cell phone numbers, because it's instant communication. You can message them quickly, and the open rates and click-through rates are very, very high. But in 3 years from now, I'm sure that's going to change. It'll be like email; it'll drop.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. One other thing that you brought up that I thought was interesting is, the attraction versus repelling. And I am I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, as long as we're having a marketing conversation here. I believe that the repelling is a good thing. Like, I feel like because it's so, like, it's easy for us to jump on, and now we're doing a podcast, but we're recording in video, and we can just sit here and have a conversation. And not everybody that's watching this, believe it or not, is going to go, oh, there's some 3 amazing dudes on this podcast, right? They might be repelled. Who knows? But I think that that's a good thing. I think that you want to find the people who resonate with your message and with who you are. I mean, I love what you said about wanting to go out and help 1 million people. And Jack and I have never really defined that it should be 1 million people. That would be a lofty goal for us, but we have very similar intentions. And when you go out there and move through this world with transparency and intention, then that's going to come through. And people either like it and pick up on that vibe or they don't.
Yeah, yeah, you have to have clear intentions, because if you're out trying to capture anybody and everybody because they've got a pulse and they can be a potential customer of yours, at the end of the day, you're not going to attract as large of an audience that believes in you and wants to work with you as you can, because what you're doing is you're essentially shooting at everything with no clear definition of who you want to work with, who you want to attract, the types of people that you want to help. When you get clear about who you serve, I think the fog will start to clear, and your marketing strategy and your marketing tactics and your messaging all fall into line, because now you know exactly what to say to who, and you know how to identify that particular avatar of yours. Going with the shotgun approach doesn't work. It's very myopic and short-lived. When you get very clear on who you want to reach, then everything becomes very clear in your communication, your messaging, your marketing, how you answer the phone, the emails you send out, the types of properties you're acquiring and renovating, because you know the target market and the demographic that you're serving. So you're essentially reverse engineering it. This is the person I need to help because I know I can help them, and they want my help. Well, what do they need? Great. Let's make sure we deliver that particular product and that service. So clarity provides everything you need in business. You have to niche it down. You have to be very clear.
Marco,
Yeah.
who is it that you're looking for? I mean, I know you're looking to serve investors, but if you could do maybe a deeper dive on that, who does your model serve? Who's your avatar?
Well, although we help a whole broad range of people because they just come to us knowing that we provide a service that can help them, the primary avatar that we serve is the busy professional, the person who has good credit, good income, and they know they need to invest for their future and their family and their generations to come. But they need a service where they don't need to reinvent the wheel, go through large learning curves in terms of educating themselves. The person that doesn't have the time to assemble and vet a team of people around them in order to achieve that goal. So the fact is we've done all that for them. So we naturally attract the busy professional, the busy entrepreneur, the person who's got investable income and good credit and understands real estate enough to know that they need to invest, and they come to us to help them do 70% of that. They're going to do the other 20 or 30% in terms of due diligence and whatnot. And we hold their hand through that last 30% anyway. So we don't necessarily target the newbie, and we don't necessarily target the overly sophisticated real estate investor, because those two people, although they could use our help, they're really, they don't need us as much as the busy professional.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting because I'm feeling like heart pang sometimes when you talk about the newbie and then you talk about the much more seasoned investor. And when we started our company, of course, everything was just about selling and revenue, and we would really pretty much work with anybody. And
right.
Well, it was true of most new businesses. I mean, you just need the revenue, you need to survive.
Right.
And that became very problematic very quickly. And so I think that whereas where you've been probably more intentional about it, to say, hey, this is exactly who we want to work with, we've been more the sculptor and said, here's all the people we don't want to work with.
Right.
And we tend to sort of brush off some of those, not in a mean way or whatever, but there's less and less of them that are approaching us now because of our voice and our podcast and our marketing and things like that. So we're like you, we're getting better at attracting, the ones that make more sense for us. But it's very, very difficult to work with an investor who is probably not a perfect fit. Even if they're kind of a fit, you always run into troubles with, outcomes and managing expectations and things like that. And we just got to a point where it's like, I don't want to live like this. I don't, we do a fantastic job. I don't want to keep having to justify that we do a fantastic job because we're already amazing. And, you're held under the microscope sometimes by people that you probably shouldn't be doing business with.
Yeah, I think as you grow, you have the privilege and the luxury of being able to pick and choose who you work with because you're not coming from an area or a place of desperation. You don't have to take on everybody to survive and pay the bills every month. You can be more clear in your intentions and who you want to work with. So that's a good place to be. You don't start that way, but that's a good place to be.
Yeah, definitely. So it's a good segue into, because you're obviously, something resonated with me when you said like you're kind of helping the investor through that last 30% and kind of helping them with that due diligence. Now, you're in a little bit unique, different position than we are. We're a full turnkey provider. So we actually go out and, acquire the property and do the rehabs ourselves, whatever. And you're essentially, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're working with teams like ours and you're recommending other turnkey providers all across the country. And essentially, would it be safe to say that you're like a matching service between what the investor needs and is looking for and the right fit in terms of the kind of turnkey company or the kind of property that they should be finding?
So we define a company like yours as a turnkey provider versus a company like ours, which if I was to be a little more technical about the definition, I would refer to our company as a turnkey promoter. We don't technically own any of the properties. We function much like a nationwide real estate brokerage of turnkey rental properties. That inventory that we sell comes from guys like you who we seek out and vet and onboard as one of our approved providers because we like you and we like your product and we know that you're providing good quality product and good quality service. For a company like yours, for an investor who's, wanting to invest in Indianapolis, they've done their due diligence, they know that's the place they want to be, and they know of you and they maybe have a relationship with you, they're going to work with you, and that's great. You can help them. You're a specialist in that local market. You've got the product. Fantastic. The clients that we work with may not know where they want to invest. So we pull their investment goals out of their head. And we help them define what it is they want to achieve. We help them map out that investment or that investment roadmap. And based on their risk tolerance and their investment goals, we help them identify the markets that will help them achieve those investment goals. So being agnostic across the board, mostly being market agnostic, it allows us to operate in multiple markets and provide our clients what they need based upon what is available in those markets. So for us, we are essentially working with a client, helping them map out a plan, an investment plan in real estate, and then matching them to the markets, the neighborhoods, and the properties or providers within those neighborhoods or markets, I should say. So for us, it allows us to be provider agnostic, market agnostic, neighborhood agnostic, property management company agnostic. We're agnostic across the board. We're not married to a market. That allows us to be very nimble. Also, as the markets change, because all markets go through real estate cycles, not just economic cycles, but actual real estate cycles, it allows us to go in and out of markets as needed, depending on what is going on in that market in terms of the amount of inventory, the amount of the rent to value ratios, the profitability. If an investment is an investment when it's an investment, but as the market changes, it may not be a good place to invest anymore because the numbers don't make sense, or maybe there's just no inventory, or maybe those teams, those providers like you have, closed shop and moved on to greener pastures in another market because there's more opportunity or better opportunity there. So real estate is never in equilibrium. It ebbs and flows, and you have to just kind of move along with it as it changes at a macroeconomic level, at a local level, because all real estate is local. So because real estate is always in a state of flux, it's never in equilibrium, we need to adapt to the market, and we need to adapt to our clients' needs. And that means that we can go in and out of different markets at different times to get the right inventory to serve them. So Indianapolis has been a great market. It's been a perennial market for us. We've probably been in the Indy market for, I think, 13 years, if I'm not mistaken. So you guys are in a great place. It continues to be a great market. But you know, for us, working on a more of a nationwide basis, it allows us to bring in different markets each and every year, depending on what's available and you know, what makes sense for investors. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, you are, absolutely. And it's a great description, and it's a great distinction between the kind of company that we are and the kind of company that you are. And I love the use of the word agnostic. I think that's it's very appropriate. So one of the things you said that I caught was, you know, and I really want to get down to the nitty gritty stuff, is you say you vet companies like ours. So I want to just let's just air the dirty laundry now, and let's just figure out, okay, what is it that you're looking for when you look for, because you said you're a promoter, we're a provider. Cool. That's a great distinction. What is it that you look for in a provider, and what are the things you're seeing in the ones that you turn down? Because we feel like there's a lot of crappy stuff going on in our industry too, and we're trying to rise above that. So I want to hear it from somebody who, you know, represents on the other side.
So the providers that we work with, they have to fit within what, you know, I'm calling a buy box. You know, we have kind of a defined buy box of what we look for, because that's what our clients are looking for, and we know that's what makes sense to them. So generally speaking, again, there's all rules can be bent, and there are exceptions, but generally speaking, the bulk of the product that we are selling, because that's the demand and that's what makes sense from a numerical perspective, are properties in B-class neighborhoods. Now we have some C pluses and we have A minuses, but the middle of that bell curve is like B plus type neighborhoods. And depending on the market, it's going to vary, but typically those are going to be properties from $80,000 to $130,000. Obviously, it's going to differ from, you know, Dallas and Austin to Indianapolis, Kansas City to Memphis, Tennessee. You know, those numbers, or that bell curve, skews left and right. So that's one thing, is the buy box. What is the product that you guys or whoever is producing and offering? Second, what is the quality of the renovation? You know, we look at every inspection that is done on a property with a provider. Like, we'll vet them first, and we'll look at their inventory and see what it is they're producing, what's the quality of work, the locations, like where they're located and in what neighborhoods. But we insist that all our clients order an inspection report as part of their due diligence. So right after they go under contract, we have them order a home inspection report as the bare minimum of their due diligence. And we look at, you know, what's in that report. Are there a lot of issues and red flags, or is it pretty clean? There's just a lot of could be done stuff. You know, there's a big difference between those two types of inspections. And then when little issues come up, you know, we want to know, what does the provider do to stand behind their product? Are they going to step up and step in and you know, take care of those little issues, things that should have been taken care of, or things that could be potential issues or safety issues? Like, we want to know that they're standing behind their product and they're going to take care of the client. We don't want them to just be, you know, focused on the transaction and they just want to get as many through the door as possible and move on to the next deal. You know, you've got to care about the client. You've got to service the client. And if you do that, it's just going to build your reputation. They're going to come back and buy more, and they're going to bring you referrals. So you're really doing good for you and everybody else. So those are the things we look for. Those are really the big things, is the quality of the product and their ability to service that property and that investor before, during, and after that sale. Those are the biggies.
What do you typically see for price to rent ratios in those ranges? You know, like what, $100,000 property, do you have a target rent to where it makes sense for the investor and for you to sell it?
Well, it's market specific. Generally speaking, as a very general rule of thumb, 1% is kind of that, you know, that target, that initial target. But the properties we sell, if you look across the board, they range from rent to price or rent to value ratios of as low as 0.8% to as high as 1.1. And it's not just the market that will affect that RV ratio, it's also the type of neighborhood, because you can be in a more expensive market overall, but go into neighborhoods where you still have high or above average rent to price ratios. So it's a function of the neighborhood as well as the market, more so the neighborhood than the market. But 1% is the general rule of thumb, but it's okay to be as low as 0.7%. That's kind of where I really draw the line. I'm in the process of purchasing a property right now that has an RV ratio of 0.7%, but it's in a very good neighborhood. It's what I'll call probably borderline A+, or excuse me, A- neighborhood. It has good appreciation potential. It's just a stable, strong neighborhood. So I'm giving up on that initial cash flow and cash on cash return with that 0.7% rent to value ratio in lieu of what I believe to be strong appreciation over the next 1, 3, and 5 years in that neighborhood with that property. So that's the give and the take.
So what we found when we ran our numbers and really truly put in, the vacancy allotment, projected out, maintenance and repairs, CapEx, obviously you got property management fee, taxes, insurance. When we're at 1% rule, a lot of the cap rates are, some of them are pretty challenging, 5-6%. What do you see when you run all the numbers for these types of properties?
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon to start to see 6% cap rates more and more today, just because cap rates are being compressed, inventory is tight. Mm-hmm. We're starting to see slip in terms of the rent to price ratio. So it's harder and harder to find 1% RV ratios. I think the norm right now across, if I was to take all the inventory we have in our database right now, I'd say the RV ratio is probably 0.9%. That seems to be the new normal. Mm-hmm. Unless you go off into like tertiary markets or you step down your neighborhood criteria. If you're a B class neighborhood investor, you have to step it down to B- now to keep those cap rates up. Unless you're doing that, you're just finding overall those RV ratios are dropping and the cap rates are dropping. It used to be normal to have 7, 8, 9% cap rates. Now we're seeing 5 to 7, 5 to 8 being pretty common. So,
okay. Yeah, so we weren't far off when we did our projections of, putting everything in, not leaving anything out in terms of, oh yeah, we're going to leave out the vacancy allotment in this property. We're assuming it's going to be rented year round, right? I mean, it's not going to have any repairs, right?
Yeah, you can't do that because investors will catch on. You can't. They'll just see it as being deceitful if you're not budgeting or factoring in vacancy allowance and maintenance and repairs. You just have to have that there and just tell them, look, this is a true cash flow. This is true net cash flow. This is a true net cap rate. We're not holding anything back. We're showing you the vacancy. We're budgeting for it. We're budgeting for maintenance and repairs. And if you're transparent that way, then you'll build trust, but you'll also represent a true scenario with that investment property. And that's what people want. They don't want surprises later on, 6 months, a year down the road saying, hey, cash flows are way off what you told me or projected. And the reason is you didn't have vacancy in there, or you didn't have maintenance and repairs. You're better off giving them kind of the quote unquote worst case scenario and let the investment do better if it does. But at least you cover your butt in terms of being honest and transparent about the numbers.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So we got to take a quick pause because I know Nicole wants to tell us about our home run of the week. So take it away, Nicole.
Hi, this is Nicole, your Director of Investor Relations at High Return Real Estate. This spacious single-family home on Alpine Place is in a very desirable location. It backs up 2 parks, a wooded area, and is surrounded by owner-occupied singles. It is located just outside the Circle in Indianapolis, which is also called the Circle City. This cozy B-class property can be summed up in one word: stability. Email me at homerun@highreturnrealestate.com. That's homerun@highreturnrealestate.com, and I'll send you all the details. Talk to you soon.
All right, awesome. We are back with Marco Santarelli talking shop. This is so much fun. Hey, I have a question that I feel is like the make or break for any investment property, and I want to know your feelings about property management, because you're out there vetting turnkey providers, and I would guess that some of them may have their own in-house solutions, some of them may have a semi-in-house, some of them may have a strategic relationship with someone else. What are you looking for in terms of property management?
Well, I have a saying that you live and die by your property manager.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of truth in that. You know,
Absolutely.
you really want a strong property manager, because you have to look at them as your asset manager. They're managing your assets. And so you want someone who knows how to properly screen, qualify, and place tenants, because the better the quality of the tenant, the better the experience will be, the better they take care of the property, the longer they tend to stay, the fewer late payments you're going to experience. It really is so critical right from the get-go. You want property management that has good communication. Communication is my pet peeve. I have issues with people who don't get back to me in a timely manner. If it's email, I give them a day or so. If it's a phone call, same thing, about a day or so. I don't expect someone, to get back to me instantly, but don't drag me out for a week. So I want the same thing for my management company. Whoever your point of contact there is, it may not be the property manager, but it might be some administrator in-house, and they need to be able to give you answers to your questions and give you an update on anything that's going on, if there's an issue or a repair, something like that. So communication is a big thing with property management. Placing, taking the time and placing good tenants, because that will eliminate headaches going down the road. Those are really two big things for me. One of the mistakes I made a long time ago is hiring a real estate agent who's really one of my acquisitions team members, if you will. They were the ones finding me deals, and they also did property management, but I didn't think about it at the time, but they did property management on the side. So they weren't full-time in management, nor were they full-time in property sales as an agent. And it started off okay, but it came to a point where they weren't doing anything right or well enough. And it even got worse. It got to the point where she ended up stealing $6,000 from me in terms of rents that never showed up, and she claimed that she had sent them off UPS, and it just never happened. So you want to work with a company that has a good reputation, and you have a good warm fuzzy feeling in your belly about them when you talk to them on the phone, and you've interviewed them right from the beginning. So management's key.
So the last question, Marco, because we're running out of time, but we could go on forever. That's awesome. We always ask this: what's the one question that maybe we should have asked you that we didn't, that you'd like to expand on?
Well, there's probably about 100 of those. I would say for people listening to this, regardless of what you are doing in terms of real estate investing or not, at the end of the day, where people create success in real estate investing are those people that actually take action. It amazes me to this day how many people listen to a podcast, read books, educate themselves, they're on forums, and they're learning about real estate. They have a dream about real estate investing, and they want to do it, and there's really not much holding them back, but they just don't take action. And it blows me away, because so many more people could be putting themselves on the path to financial independence and financial freedom if they just took action. And a lot of those people, after they make their first and second acquisition, their first two properties, they look back and they realize, holy crap, that really wasn't that difficult. But it was just holding me back, and I could have started years earlier. And so at the end of the day, so there are a lot of educated people out there, and a lot of people understand real estate investing better than their neighbor, but they just don't do anything about it. They don't take action. So they need to send you guys an email or pick up the phone and take that initial step to, move towards acquiring that first, second, third rental property and start building up. Because the more you wait, the worse it's going to be for you. The saying is, when's the best time to plant a seed and grow a tree? And that was 20 years ago. Well, what's the second best time? Well, that's today. So you have to get started. You just have to take action. So action is the biggest thing. Every successful person has created their success through execution. Everybody has a plan. Everybody has a dream. Everybody has a wish, and everybody has a goal, or at least most people have a goal. But look, at the end of the day, you can have all that, but until you actually put the rubber to the road and execute, nothing happens.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, words of wisdom. That's fantastic. So, Marco, this has been fantastic. And I really want to thank you for your insights and your wisdom and your leadership within the industry. So it's really great. So if people want to get a hold of you at Narada, how do they do that?
Well, Jeff, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me on. You guys are great questions, great show. So, hopefully this has been helpful.
Yeah.
As far as getting in touch with my team and I, it's really we have two websites, NoradaRealEstate.com, Norada, NoradaRealEstate.com. That's our main website. And then our sister website is PassiveRealEstateInvesting.com, PassiveRealEstateInvesting.com.
Okay. I'm writing them down because we're going to make sure we get those into the show notes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you very much. And I'm not necessarily convinced that we're exactly in the same markets, but who knows? Maybe we'll be one of those recommended providers someday. Right now, we're selling everything we get, so it's hard to.
That's good.
It's hard to have the overflow for guys like you. But I love what you're up to in the industry, and this has just been really, really great. And I think you really brought a lot of value to the listeners of understanding really a much bigger picture of what happens in the turnkey space.
Well, you guys just keep doing the good work that you're doing, and you'll help to serve more people. So that's really what we need to do, is just keep this industry in good, positive light.
Yep, for sure. Thanks so much. And thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah. Thanks so
Thanks,
much,
guys.
Marco.